Okay.
Can I
Yep.
officially tell the DEQ we are going to purchase a generator for 2.8 right now, just to get Brad Slater off my back?
It is, we have plugged them numbers.
Are we
into
gonna budget the money for it?
Yeah,
It's approved, we just gotta get it.
Okay.
Once budget's approved, it is in
So
there.
I can approve, I can tell Brad Slater that, yes, I had a
it'll be
meeting
in next
tonight.
year's budget.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
as far as
budgeted.
I'm concerned, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Now we're down to the budget. Everybody got a copy of it, I believe. Anybody have any comments, questions, issues?
Is the $1,000 for education and training, that's for all 7 people, $1,000 for 1 whole year?
Yes,
It seems sort of low in light of the fact that the class that I just took was $275 for 1 person. I'm of the mind of, you know, taking training and improving, so I just think that that's sort of low.
So far this year,
Training
we've
down
only spent
below it.
$545,
$1,000.
and we don't have the money to increase anything on that right now, anywhere in this. But there's also numbers that aren't plugged into this yet, that can't be until we make decisions on what we're going to do as a council. There are appropriation transfers in that will change according to whether we decide to give a 1.5% raise, a 2%, or none at all. It all has a variable to how much money we're appropriating then for the Day Park grant project there, sidewalks that Rob has talked about, the generator. I mean, they're all these numbers gotta come together of what we're gonna do on a raise and what else extra projects we want. So them are numbers that aren't plugged in yet.
So we're not taking action on this tonight, we're just looking at these new numbers again.
we're looking at these new numbers, but we are gonna have those discussions that Joe's talking about. So are we gonna give raises? If so, how much? If not,
When you look at any place that it's showing salaries, the first number underneath the proposed budget is what it would be at their current rate. The next one, which would look like underneath the allocation type, that would be a
So give me an
1.5.
exact example, like what page are you looking at?
Okay,
Let's just do it that way.
page 2.
Let's go to page 2.
Two.
Okay.
You're looking at, let's say the clerk's salary.
Okay,
Her salary right now is $27,000 a year.
all right,
The very next number to the right,
1.5.
that would be with a 1.5%.
Next
The
column.
very next would be a 2%.
All right,
And every place that you go down through, you would see that in anybody's salaries across the board, DPW, Scott's, or law enforcement's. And then, at the bottom of the pages, she totaled them out for that. When you go to the very end of the budget, you'll see it as revenue over expenditure. And then, like on the 101, it's with sidewalks, without sidewalks. There's so many variables that are here right now that we need to nail some other things down so we can give you much better numbers when we come back.
so just real quick on page 3, line item 2, it just says salaries, and there's nothing, we assume it's whose salary?
On,
The
Page-
administrator, village administrator.
Okay, so page 3 is a village admin, all right.
The 262 number for the village administrator.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
The assistant.
Park salaries.
so like I said, the revenues and the revenue over expenditures are all gonna vary by whether or not we're given a raise. And then it's going to vary on how much we appropriate in for the projects. For example, Rob, last month you asked for 8,000 in sidewalks.
No, that's what it was.
That's, if we're looking.
Page 5.
Yes, I think so, yeah, page 5. You know, if we're looking at a lot of write-off time for the DPW on this grant project as we did before, are they truly gonna be able to get $8,000 worth of sidewalk done?
No, we've already, yeah. that's-
So do we drop that down to 5? Do we put it at 0 and then amend our budget later if they have time to do work and do it?
Well, based on the grant, if this moves forward, we're gonna need the $8,000 towards the grant. I mean, think you'd be better off putting it at 0 for now, if the grant moves forward.
We
Because
got
of the
it.
DPW's gonna
So,
be.
so we really should put it at 0 for now, and then if we have to amend the budget later for sidewalks, then just amend it then.
Yeah, as we have, as information is forthcoming regarding the grant. Yeah,
So right now, we could take new sidewalks to 0.
yeah. And amend later
Yep.
and come down the status of the grant.
Okay. Now, also, I have not put any monies into the budget to show anything for the grant yet at all, because we don't truly know until bids come in what that's going to be, and where it's gonna put us as a appropriation transfer in from fund balance. So the other question is, that I would have is, what's the thoughts on a raise? Are we 1.5, 2, none?
Joe, on page 11, there's one of those salary lines that doesn't have the allocation or the increase on it. What's that one for? The current year-to-date 3,200, current
Yeah,
budget's
that's
10.
That's the DDA, and actually, that's gonna get changed, we were gonna do it last year and it slipped through. That's gonna
So
change the
this
same
last
salary.
section, 248, here's all DDA.
Yes, but that 248,500 number is gonna change, to, like contracted services, because DDA doesn't get paid salaries.
Right.
So that actually will change the description of that here.
Do we have the DDA's budget
No.
info in there?
Nope.
Okay.
All we have is what, we're going off of what they haven't spent from what they had last year.
Okay.
And that's all that is in this current budget. I know they were looking at asking for quite a bit of money, some different things, but they haven't officially proposed that yet. I don't believe, was it?
I submitted it to the council. but
Was that in last month's package?
Last month's
Okay.
packet.
Okay, yeah, I don't remember seeing it. Right here.
Well, you saw it, but I don't think everyone else did.
Okay, we'll get copies of this with what they wanted, using it anyway.
All right, let's go back to the tough question, are we gonna give a raise or not gonna give a raise?
What they had last year?
They
2%.
didn't. 2?
2% last year?
I do believe it was, yeah. Pretty sure it was. I remember it off the top of my head. I thought it was 2%.
What was the year before last?
Joe,
Year before.
3% the year before?
So 2015, 2%. 2014.
Is there some formula, or are we just picking out a percent?
You can go online and look at what the average cost of living increases is,
Yeah.
and most places are in between 1.5 to 3.5%.
Don't we have it stipulated so that instead of going through this year after year, well, 1 year it's 2, 1 year it's 3, why don't we say that every year it's 1 point something, or why go through this?
I think this is a necessary evil that you should go through every year.
Well,
It's
I
just
know,
my opinion.
I agree, but I'm trying to determine that, if 1 year we say it's 3, is it because we've got extra money in the bank, or 1 year it's 2 because we don't have any money in the bank, or what's the basis of the percent?
Economy, cost of living, all of that, that's how I would look at it,
So you're saying 1.5 for this year?
I'm not,
Or
we're just showing the numbers of all of it.
What does this equate to on the sides here? What's the percent?
1.5 or 2%?
1.5.
Yep.
Or 2, there's two different numbers there.
Okay.
Looking through most all of this, the only, I think one of them, I have to look back. Every one of them came out, with either 0 or a revenue over expenditure, very close, at going to 2%, like, Major Street If you look, if we did 2%, that would end up with a $49 of revenue over expenditure, page 7. If you went with the 1.5%, it's gonna have $161.
So page 7, I see 49 and 2%, so we'd be over by $49.
No, you'd be under, that
Alright.
means we've got $49 more brought in than we're
Alright.
planning on spending.
Okay.
So I think every one of these came out,
The approved budget next month has to have revenue in excess of expenditures in every round,
Or zero.
or zero.
Well, I'm all for the increase of 1.5 to 2%.
you're making.
Which one? 1.5
Or
or
1.5/2%.
Is that across the board?
Well, we should at least maintain what we did last year. I mean, I don't think we should make it be any less.
County employees will be receiving a 2% increase in this fiscal year.
Then I say we go 2%.
Can we just say that, you know,
Across
from
the
now
board?
until the,
When you say across the board?
I mean, all the salaries going across.
Yeah, I do, all of them, except the, I don't think the part-time police officers
do
do.
we need
Well,
to
I-
make a
I know
motion
that
on
one.
the 2%? I object. Do we need to make a motion
need
on
to
the
cut his
2%
pay right
increase?
Yeah, we're just agreeing that we're not actually passing anything here, so.
You're not making.
So
a
if the
motion
board is
today?
thinking, if everybody says 2%, we're gonna plug all the numbers at 2%.
Okay, I agree with that.
2%.
Yeah.
2%?
You got
Yes.
good employees, you need to compensate.
There you go, all right, so we're gonna plug numbers at 2%. Okay, and
Absolutely.
we eliminated the sidewalks.
Yeah,
Um, Yep, I think, we already showed on this, the local streets for the street project, page 8. That was a street project that Sam and Rob went over, and Rob talked to us last month about wanting to do.
The 130,500.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna have to bring in from fund balance.
Street project.
Yep. And that'll get, that showed down on local construction contracted services, at 150,000.
I'm also gonna recommend that page 1, 101, 101, 7020, that 7,500 be changed to 8,200.
Page 1.
101, 101, 7020. I'm recommending that we, as a council, get $100 more than what we normally do or have.
Oh.
$100 a year?
Yes.
To change it to what?
8,200, $100 more. Added to the base, not to the meeting.
Right, which is right now, a council member, trustee makes 300 a year. President pro tem, I believe, is 500 a year, isn't it? And the president is 1,000, is that correct?
I don't remember the numbers, but that's, whatever, it's just $100 more, or whatever they will,
So it'd be a total of 8,200 for the year for everybody.
for everybody.
Do we have $1,000 of revenue over expenditure? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as within the general operating expense, I'm fine with that. All right.
I think it's been a while since that figure has been compensated.
I think
increased.
it's been a long time.
Well, if we're doing that, shouldn't we raise the president's salary also then?
That's up to
Mr.
you
President, can
guys.
I be excused?
Yes,
Thank you.
Night, Sam.
Night, Sam.
Good night, everybody, have a good night.
Okay, so 8,200 on this, 70/20.
Oh,
I think if the trustees are gonna be raised, the president and president pro tem are gonna be in the 82.
Yeah.
But I think the president should also increase that same amount. $100 on the base.
So that's 70/20, right?
So it would be 28
oh, actually, it would be at 8,100 instead of 8,200 on the trustees.
Okay,
And then the president would be
28.
28 instead of 27.
I'm good with that. Anybody else?
So So if nobody else takes any training, I can use up the whole $1,000.
It's justified.
Good,
Thank you.
good.
Rachel, in your budget, you've got office supplies of 3,000. And
That's, new computer for next year.
next year, okay. Just wanna know where,
What page you on?
Page two,
Two,
page 2.
101, 260, 72, 70.
We got clerk's office utilities, nothing budgeted, that we've got $60 million.
We did, make a budget resolution last month for the utilities because the township was not billing us for the last like 3 years, so we got all those bills at once. And
Okay.
that's what that expensive.
Yeah, there was that.
Okay.
Yep. And we figured it out, what would come to it would be about.
We still
$500.
pay like $4,000 a
Yes,
year
that's in the rent, yep.
for the,
But, well, the original contract,
or something?
well, the original contract was 10% of the utilities. $4,000 rent and
10% of gas.
10% of the gas bill. They were never charging us, they never gave us a bill, and never got paid for many, many years. And so last year, they went retro and we paid for all of it, that's why it shows the
Thank you, Lynn.
$67. But figuring it all out,
Night,
this
Lynn.
will be under 500 for a year.
Do we still follow the parking lot or the
Yeah.
township does?
Sam does it.
Well,
You build them?
That's part of our contract.
Part of the agreement.
Joe, I just have a question on the clerk's office miscellaneous for 2,000. What are we looking at there? What does that entail? 101, 260, 95, 60.
Yeah, I know the number there, that would be a number that Rachel would have inputted for whatever her miscellaneous is. We had 1,000 there, we spent 1,950 of it. They could be anything from printer stuff to a chair if she needs a chair, whatever the office itself
So
needs.
it's different than clerk office supplies where we have a computer included into it. And the clerk's
This is
office
just miscellaneous
miscellaneous.
stuff, yes. This is stuff that didn't fall in one of the other categories. Did you have a certain number there or something that you were looking at doing?
Anything close to that is like,
I think that number went to 2,000, knowing that we've spent 15 already, 50, almost 1,600 already in miscellaneous.
We're spending $1,600 on miscellaneous. Is
I'd have to pull back up all this stuff to tell you for
there
sure what
something
it
I'm
is.
missing down there?
We'd have to go back and pull that number and it would, to see everything that had been
It's a
bought.
lot of miscellaneous.
agree.
Okay.
You can get that report for you next month.
Okay.
One of my
About the
intentions is,
printing of publications.
So is that increase because you got the
yeah, it's budget.
Bottom line.
2,500, I would do that. My intention was to take the maintenance, common area maintenance person, the flower lady, out of DDA's and bring it back into ours. It used to be a 203 expense, which is local streets, I believe.
Not on there now though, currently.
It's not on there now, it was removed, and I would like to bring that back with a budget of 5,000 to 6,000, somewhere in that range.
So we're gonna write it under 101.
But, hang on, before we write anything in there, what are we cutting to make that work? Because right now, with this 2%, we've got $635 available to run that. So what are you gonna cut to come up with that other 5,300 and some odd dollars?
You're transferring in 111,000 from a fund balance that is greater than that.
You're talking this transfer, the 130?
Joe, what page?
Shows 111 in mine.
Joe, what page?
Page 8, we're at,
And it's actually 130, 500. I think you got one, I made a mistake on the,
Okay.
on mine, and Rachel caught it correctly.
Appropriation transfer in, 130,500.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you wanna
That's
put
the
$6,000,
6990.
so if you wanna put $6,000 in a common area caretaker, we just did a 2% increase,
Where was that going out of
DDA.
The DDA.
Didn't we give the DDA money from our budget to them
Right.
When we
Flowers?
initially did it,
at
yes.
one point in time?
And then
So,
she got
They
paid
still
out
get
of
to keep
that.
the money, but we're now paying. That's what it sounds like.
No. They're gonna be-
So,
They
well,
don't get to keep, they're not getting to keep that money.
Oh,
What I'm-
okay,
What
that's-
I'm saying
No.
is they're not gonna have that in their budget. It's
Okay.
gonna be back into our local street budget.
Oh,
So you're saying we're gonna pull this $5,000 for contracted services and put it,
That's what I would like to do.
so their budget now goes from,
What page you on, Joe?
I'm on page 11, which means their budget goes from, what we initially had,
65.
10,000 down, to 10,941 start out, I believe it was. Oh no, we're starting, yeah, we're starting out at 14,500.
14.5.
Okay.
That's what they had last year, this year.
Oh, yeah, that's in the current budget.
Correct, it's 14.5.
And we're at $9,050, is that right? Okay, so we're looking, if you pull 5,000 out of that, they're gonna have $4,050 in their budget, is that?
Right, and that sheet that you got, and I got, but nobody else got, they were asking for $30,000.
Right.
So,
Well, we were asking for 7 or 20.
20 plus
Total budget was
17
37.
crowdfunding.
Yeah, we were gonna fundraise part of that.
okay, so they're asking for 20. We're not there yet, so just
Oh,
bear with me, we're going through this.
Okay, so you're wanting to pull that 5,000 out there, so that,
Out of that 9,050?
yep. So that now makes this 4,050.
We're gonna pull 5 out of that.
And so you're gonna transfer in another $5,000.
5,000.
We would be back in the 203,000,6990.
What page?
You're gonna appropriate
Page 8
in,
again?
yes, page 8. You're gonna appropriate in another $5,000. So instead of 130,500, you're gonna put in 135,500,
Yes.
which still means we're operating outside of our general. We can't take money from our savings to fund the general operations of the village. Only for special projects.
So we got 5,000 from the DDA's
DDA.
portion so far, so we need another $1,000 to pay for our flower lady.
So we don't, we can do it on 5,000, well, that's not the thing yet, because we don't even have a contract or a person to do it.
Right.
So, in years past, we did it at $3,000 on a contracted service.
So we've got the money, we just gotta shuffle it on.
We don't have the money in the general operations of the budget. We only have it in savings, and I
But the
think it's,
DDA, where is that money at?
that's in savings also.
I see.
And then the DDA is considered kind of a special funding right now, kind of like doing a street project or whatever. And I don't think we can go into our savings for general operations of the village. If we're only making $10,000, we can't spend 11, or we're gonna go broke.
Then how was that 203 line in there at one point in time taken out, and now we just want to put it back? It doesn't make sense to me.
The line is still there, it's just inactive. It doesn't show up on here because we don't use it. So the line item is still in the budget, you just don't see it because it's inactive,
Okay,
and there's nothing in it.
okay.
All she's got to, when she does a revenue and expenditure, she clicks a button and it's back into the system. It's simple. But if you were to add $5,000 to this, say, even $3,000.
What if we took,
That's
what
if
if
we
we
had-
took 5,000 out of local construction contracts, and made that 145,000? And added it to the common area maintenance
The local construction contracting services,
line. Right.
that pulls 5,000 from their road project if they wanna do. So we already approved moving forward, was it last month, Rob? Or the
Last
month
one, we
before?
approved 150.
Well, we have police patrol vehicle fuel year to date.
I mean, I'm not clear, I'm not,
$67.
don't get me wrong, I'm just saying, to balance this budget, we've gotta have it,
The year's
Work
not
out.
over.
Still got a hundred and,
The year not being over as far as not spending
Right.
that money.
Okay.
We just can't put a line.
Well, if we took
It's
50 or
$5,000.
$100 off of everything, that would certainly give us.
it's not there unless we make a cut somewhere else. I mean, I understand there is a lot of people wanting to have it more underneath the village because of the 3 flower beds that are outside of it, they work underneath Sam, or after, I can understand all that, that does make sense to me. The money's just not there in the budget to do it.
So we need to cut things from 101, we need to find something in 101 to equate to $5,000 to $6,000.
203.
What's our fund balance?
I really, 203, I don't have any time.
$255,990.
$255, and we're moving $135 in. Is that what you're saying?
This is our current fund balance. Okay, I didn't realize that, okay. Thank you. Got a nice one. Yeah, so we're taking 130 of that away,
Right.
which is only, so it leaves us 100 and,
So can we take 135 of it away?
you're still operating out of your savings.
Well, what are you doing by taking 130 out?
That's a special project.
Those flowers aren't special projects?
Not if we're gonna do them every year.
It's not a special project till you approve it.
We already approved it last month.
You haven't accepted bids though.
Rob, didn't you bring the bids
For what?
for the street light?
No.
Didn't you?
No, we just allocated money for it, for 150.
Okay. So they may come in lower then, and we may be okay.
You don't approve them until you accept the bid.
We approved the budget for it. I'd have to, I think,
It's not a balanced budget if we put $5,000 in there. You're operating out of your savings account.
so you have to ask the auditor that question. There's gotta be a way.
So we can't say out of the 101 that,
Yeah, transferring that out of the DVA.
if
It's still
Rachel
something.
spends 2,000 on a computer instead of 3 and there's $1,000 left, can that go towards?
No, you can't.
Funds.
Different accounts.
Yeah, different accounts. You can transfer monies between local and major streets and between water and sewer.
Okay,
Everything else has to remain within.
where it's at.
Teresa,
what if you transferred the money to the DDA and then gave the DDA direction on on what you wanted done? I know it wouldn't necessarily take care of those 2 or 3 different plots outside the area, but that would maybe get what you want done, an increase in the flower budget.
I guess I don't understand it. If we take it away from the DDA, we can't use that for a flower.
Let's ask Jim.
Joe, question you about.
You're taking how much from the DDA,
Different funds again,
but it's for the same purpose.
but they're different funds.
Well, that screws me.
So, two,
same thing you're gonna do with the same damn blame money, you can't, just,
I'm with you, Lou.
oh, Christopher, I can't see that, I just can't.
So the only way you can use your savings is for special
Special
projects.
projects.
And how do we collect those savings? Through our tax dollars.
I mean,
For monies not spent previous.
So if you do this every year, in 5 years, the village files bankruptcy. Because if we're not putting money back into the savings, we're only pulling from it, we run out of
Well,
money.
if you know, you look through like local repair and maintenance,
Well,
it
if
says
the
currently
village
is
is in that type
12
of
and,
shape, we shouldn't do the street project.
well, there's $1,000 under local
take it down to
repair and maintenance
145,
right
that's
there.
what we're, I mean, it's probably coming up.
You're still pulling from fund balance.
But we're
What
still,
you-
but it's local streets is at 203, and you need money in 203.
Right.
Okay.
And we have
But that
13,
150 is coming out of the fund balance because of a special project. Even though we paved roads this last year on a special project, we're doing it again this year. That doesn't compute in my mind, that's operating.
Can't you talk to the auditor
Yeah.
and see what he suggests?
They're gonna tell us we can do it. We can take from our savings to pay this. That's not an issue of, is it legal, is it not? It's an issue of, if we do this every time, we run out of money. I mean, if I put $10 in my savings every week, and at the end of the year, I pull 500 out, I'm kinda screwed.
Okay.
Back when I was on the board 100 years ago, we used to do a paving project every 2 or 3 years.
We originally went through with Mike Ingles, is it, I believe, or?
Reith and Ryan.
Or Reith, right, whoever's with them. We set up a 20-year plan for doing these roads. Sam sat down with us, the Streets and Sidewalk Committee sat through, we set a 20-year plan. Some of them streets had gotten done by water main breaks got changed, so as we went back through this year, Sam's come to us and says, this is the time to do these. That's what was projected to us. Do we have to do them roads? No, they don't have to be done, and then we don't put that money in.
And I agree 100%, they ought to be done this year. Price of oil is never gonna raise.
Yeah.
You can't beat that, that's for darn sure.
I have no problems with that.
And I have no problems with the flower lady coming out of this, don't get me wrong.
I understand.
So what we do is we add up all of our revenues. But so you add up your revenues, and you add up all of your expenditures, and you subtract them. If there is more than $5,000 difference when you do that, then we can do it.
Joe, can we look at page 9 together real quick? I wanna just make sure I'm on the, okay, so say starting with 203-446-7750. Says the current year-to-date is 1291, projected actual is 15, yet we have a proposed budget of $2,500, right?
Yep.
So if we stuck to the projected, that would be $1,000 right there, right? If we go down,
You can't,
No,
you can't use that projected number. That projected number is just something the computer spits out by what you spent.
this penciled in number,
These numbers were pulled at the end of November. There's 4 months left of the budget for expenses to be pulled out of the.
And that local repair and maintenance, it all depends on what happens this summer. If a tree falls down and takes out the side. These
okay, well,
numbers,
I get that, but
these numbers come from the history of what has happened, not what we spent this year. The history of the village over many years. When you go back,
But assuming that this, say there weren't 4 months to go yet, what if these were the actual down the line figures?
Ryan, you wanna look at one of them?
There's 116, 17, there's like 20 grand right there, I'm just looking
The
at it.
reason we have savings is because we've always budgeted less than what our revenues are projected to be. We've never spent more than what we've taken in. That's why we have
Right.
savings to begin with. Now, and I understand that we're headed towards bankruptcy if that was a perpetual pattern. However, after we spend say $50,000 in roads this year, we probably won't have to do roads for 10 years. Because we're getting it all done. But yet, we're still collecting taxes for that $150,000 every year, or whatever it is. I'm throwing numbers out here. So, are we gonna go into bankruptcy because we take that $5,000 out? I understand Joe's comment in that if we did that perpetually, yes, but if we spent $150,000 paving roads every year, we would go bankrupt.
Correct.
We don't have that. So we're not going to, yet there's gonna be money in the local streets to cover our flower lady
Yeah.
in the future.
And again, I go back to, as long as, if we add up our revenues, don't look at the appropriation transfer. If we add up the 80,000, the 15, the 21, and the 25, and the 500 down here on miscellaneous income, whatever that comes out to. So we're 95. 111.
So the president says to the personnel and finance committee, find us $5,000.
So we're 100, 500. Now, if we add up all of our others, excluding our local contractors, I believe that came out to. Right now, we're. $235, $365 minus $150. 129. So right now, we've got 100, what other project do we got on local street? That number ain't.
Well, if you take-
Minus 150, is that what?
No, what other project? Yeah, you minus your 150,000, yeah.
84,830.
We got 88,000 in revenue.
30. Well, how much?
Well, I'm just guessing off the top of my head.
106.
105.
105,584, okay, so we'll have to go back through and look at what the appropriation transfer in will be then for doing that. We'll sit down, we'll plug the numbers in for it,
Excellent idea.
we'll get it worked out, so
Everybody.
looking at that, I see what you're saying, and there, by them numbers, it will work, but by the numbers we had there, it wouldn't.
Okay, everybody will have a completed budget prior to our next meeting. And if there's any questions beforehand, then either get back to myself or Joe and, or
We have to pass it next month.
because we do have to pass it, there has to be a public meeting prior to our meeting regarding the budget. So we gotta have all of our questions answered. So you will get a copy of this sometime far enough in advance that we'll be able to.
So you three are gonna sit down, figure it all out, come with an amended budget, we're gonna get it ahead of time and go from there.
If you've got any questions from that point, then we'll have to go with them.
Actual credits and everything,
So
spending all.
take care of it.
I've got these all with that in the beginning, but
If we have to have a special meeting for just the budget,
oh, I shouldn't say our computer, the assist program. I'd have to look back how far I got us back.
it's gotta be advertised too.
5 years, 10 years?
Oh, no, I think we go
Longer
back.
than that.
Yeah, I wanna say 12 years maybe. I'm guessing no.
And the salary, or, because it's in, before it's
It's all-
broken down into 2 line items, so there's.
It'll be 2 line items. It'll be 3,000 and, or say 2,500 apiece or something.
2,500.
Okay.
That won't matter. We're close.
When we do this, Are we gonna look at doing the same as we've done in the past, take it to a contract? As we did with Sandy Gordon Bender, the DDA, I believe you guys worked on that same contract I had done before.
I don't remember last year.
Yeah, we do the first, just single employee like Lyle.
That's fine.
I mean, it's real nice to just say, you know, we're gonna pay
But it was just
$3,000 for what it was before.
The salaries
Yeah,
and.
but we're also, but see, whoever that person is can go outside of the DDA
It
area.
was 3,000 before that, so they could. Yeah, we did 3,000 before, and that's what that Sandy Bowden Bender originally did it in at. And I don't know, DDA took it over after that.
There's only 3 plots outside the DDA area.
Plus, we're
That lady's all
all
done,
done.
the fire's not coming back.
From what I heard, she moved.
So you want to see 5,000 there. If we decide to do the contract for free, then we can do it 2,000. Rachel, I'll give you yours. You've got most all of them on.
So it, we already.
Correct?
Oh, yeah.
DDA budget,
Page on it.
page 11.
Alright.
They're asking for 20, they will fundraise for the other. I think, Rachel, could you go make copies of that proposal so everybody can have them in their hands? Joe's got it.
Yeah, I got it right there.
There's 5 copies. I got one.
Ryan, you got that? Yeah. I'll have Rachel print you one. That way you've got that. Let's keep that with my budget, so I can work through. But as you can see, what we've done and projected out. So actually, we're not going to do that 5,000 from the so we're not going to still stay at 9,000.
Yeah, that's right.
And we'll just still say that the
9,000
5,000 there was the contract.
We can't do that.
See, what I was done with that. I eliminated that. They had it at 5,000.
Oh, okay, that works.
So,
So you now have 7,000. And if those keep the same, and we're not putting any more money in right now. Guys, I don't remember off the top of my head what I scribbled this 10,941 over here on the side. So this guy, yeah, I don't know, remember what that number was now.
that sheet indicates what they would like to do. They're not asking for the total 37,740. They said they would fundraise. They were asking for about 20,000.
Now, that 20,000 includes the 9050 that they currently have, so we actually would only be funding another $10,050.
We didn't have the.
How much
Where
they
we
got
gonna
left
find
over?
that?
What's that?
Where will we find that?
That would have to come from fund balance. That's the only way to come up with that money. Is you're pulling it from your savings to give to them for these projects.
The whole idea of the DDA ultimately is to become self-sufficient. What we're doing is trying to help them in planting the seed in order to grow and become self-sufficient somewhere down the road. That, there's the Main Street program that was started and lapsed. Within this, see, they've got flowers for downtown. That's gonna get eliminated by moving what we're doing the other way.
Which is an $8,000 off of there.
Right.
So if we took 8,000, now it's down to $2,050 that we're actually adding to their.
I'll have to take the flower fund some of the other stuff, make it a little easier to fundraise. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean there's flowers downtown, but that could be, we could buy planters and put flowers downtown. It's a budget item, it's not necessarily, it's downtown flowers.
What I envision of that, the flower that we're doing though is taking care of everything. As opposed to separating it out over DDA or whatever. That way, if we've got a need somewhere in the entire community for those services, we can do that.
I would agree that one person should take care of everything. I mean, that doesn't
I
make
buy
sense.
that one, yeah.
So, if the DDA would like flowers downtown for some reason,
They can work with this
They can-
lady and ask her to bring them in and
absolutely.
there you go. So I think for their budget, what they propose to us, we can strike the 8,000.
Mhm.
Would that make sense?
That makes sense to me.
So if we took that 8,000 off of theirs, now they're down to actually only asking us for $2,050. More,
In
more.
this year's budget.
Right. And I wouldn't be against that.
Well, if we're not gonna cover, if we're not doing flowers, maybe you could help cover some of the other projects instead of having us fundraise as much. Because all the projects on there are worthwhile, and we don't know what we're gonna get from fundraising.
Well, and that brings up some other questions. We can't, we as a board, and I've talked with the auditors about this, we as a board can't pass their budget on hopefulness. So when we pass a budget, we have to show where that money is coming from. Just because they say they're gonna fundraise 17,740 doesn't mean that's what they're actually gonna do. So it was recommended to me by our auditors that we don't include that. That as things come up, as they fundraise and they collect monies, we amend their budget to include the projects that they wanna do with that monies funded, or that was raised. When we pass, we gotta show where that money is coming from. And we can't guarantee the fundraising. So there was the auditor's advice that if we know they have $20,000 guaranteed, that's what we're putting in there, we write their budget on that 20,000. If they start raising funds, it's coming in, then we adjust the budget and amend it to.
Can't adjust the budget on projected fundraising.
And you can't plan on spending money for it. So right now, what we would pass a budget for them is like we have it here. However, they break it down on this is up to them. So,
That's a proposed budget.
Right.
We had no idea what kind of money the village council was gonna bring to the DDA, if any. So that was, what projects are we working on? What are we doing? What do you guys wanna do this year? And that's the list of it.
right,
Now, once we have a number, let's say you decide to fund $12,000 of that, we can go back based on what our projects are, and then we'll submit a budget to the village council to be approved, and then hopefully do this one time. And then as we have fundraising, we'll come back and do the amendments.
and I've got questions on your budget too, like the lamppost flags. Obviously you want to, now, who puts them up and takes them down?
Those are all good questions.
Okay, so you guys are just purchasing them for us, okay. I noticed and I'd heard some different things of, the little open space there between Pat and New Star and your place. Who takes care of that? Who mows it? Are they, because I know last year there was some concerns that the grass had got overgrown and it wasn't getting cut, so making sure that
I
all
think
these
we
things
have it all
are in
figured out,
place,
yeah.
okay. There are things I
It just
don't
takes
know.
time to get it straightened out.
Right.
Who takes care of the skating rink?
Chris Corbett.
My daughter.
I was there today.
Is there any money for helping out with that? I mean, I know Chris is always
He didn't ask
doing
for it,
but.
he didn't ask for
The
it.
part was frozen in the ground, somebody didn't take care of it.
You know, we folded it up and put it at the end.
Yeah, right.
The guy that didn't take care of it left the building a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, I was just a volunteer on that one.
Yeah.
So what's the grand total here that we're looking at? The DDA is now, if we scratch off the 8 grand for flowers downtown, they're really requesting 12 grand. Right?
Which we already have 9,050 of.
So they're asking for another couple $1,000.
I think for the easiest of budgeting right now,
We're funding.
we pass what we have in front of us, which is $9,050. As they do their fundraising and as projects come up, we can play with this and go back and say, all right, we need another $1,000 for them benches. Now we'll adjust our budget and amend it. And you can make your stuff work, because yours inside it really doesn't matter as much to us as what this budget is.
Sure, I
So if that
understand.
makes sense, if we just amend the budget as it goes, just makes it easier for us right now.
Well, I'd like to see it fund half of it, take the $8,000 off the total, the $37,000, so you're at 28. And I'd like to see it funded halfway, and that way we've got half to come up with.
So you're looking at doing less of the fundraising?
Yeah.
I'm still, Corey, I'm not against it. I still think that for our budget and safety's sake right now, we go on off of what we have, and then as their projects come up and as they spend money, because again, as you said, these are all just estimates, you don't know for sure all the actual costs. As you spend the money, we can always appropriate money in and amend our budget if need be then. But for the sake of us right now, just to pass a budget, there it is. I think that's the easiest way for us to work, and then that way, as you're working for, I'm not against it, don't get me wrong,
I
but
understand what you're saying.
that way, as you guys are working forward, we're working with you too to move forward.
Well, and I can understand that, it's just kind of, it would just be nice to see the additional funds allocated towards it, just because it is for the downtown. You know, you're talking keeping the fund balance up to what we had last year.
Well, but Joe's right, I mean, maybe you guys are out there doing your crowdfunding and getting your own money coming in too, so it's hard for me to justify putting much more money out there until we see.
What happens if you, and again, I'm just throwing the other side of this out, what happens if you start doing some fundraising and you bring 30,000 in? That you never planned? Well, now the village
Then we'll
used to
amend
save
our
a little money.
budget, then we'll amend our budget. It works both ways.
See, there you go, see? So why not pass it right now with us? We're showing, with you guys, what we're doing is we're showing $7,000 in community projects. Other than that, all your other stuff, your office supplies, 200, your postage, 200, printing and publishing, 200 right now. Capital improvements, 1450. Them are all variables. Them are what we show in our budget. You can break them down any way you want in yours and start working off of it.
Well, we have to pass it, you have to pass our budget
Right.
before we can spend any money. So, I have to know what the total is that
Right.
the village is willing to put forth before we can even go forward.
And I'm saying right now, I think until you start some of your fundraising and bringing it in, let's work with the $9,000.
And I'm gonna lobby you 15.
Don't blame me
I've
one
got a
bit.
month
I
left.
don't,
I've got a
One of the
month left,
things
and I've
that we
been talking
know
to
is
everybody.
that
don't blame you one bit, I would be trying to.
the idea of decorating Sage Park is, great. When I look at this and the cast iron arch of $5,000, that's a little hard to swallow. The projector and the licensing, we had talked about that, and one of the things that, since this has come out, I know that there's talk at the high school about putting in one of those giant big screens up there. And to me, I think that's a more logical place for the community to go and watch movies with the school and the kids and whatnot, so I'm not sure how that would fit into your
Those are all
plans, but.
projected, those are all.
Well, I know, that's, I'm just
Projected off the
putting that out
plans.
there so that you know.
I'm
I'm with
gonna-
Joe on this,
I
I'm
agree.
for
I'm gonna
the,
say right now, work with this 9,000, because as she said, a lot of your numbers are going to change as you start to invest a little more. And again, I'm not against helping fund a little bit if it's a great project. I just think for now, us passing the budget, that's what we're gonna say. You guys can plan on having 50,000 if you want.
Like I said, I'm gonna make phone calls to lobby everybody. I'm always on,
You lobby all you want.
I think for now,
so. Well,
that's my opinion, Larry.
If you look at it, it's an investment in the downtown. I mean, we're making.
We'll make that investment when that time comes.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna tell you right now, my opinion, I'm not gonna tell you right now, I'm giving you money until I know what the projects are.
So you're talking not doing housing downtown.
I'm going to invest in downtown. I will approve investing in downtown, my opinion.
Okay.
It's the entire council that makes that choice.
Okay, sewer and water budgets are pretty well established.
Yep.
I don't think there's anything there. Campground budget, there again, I think that's in pretty good shape. We'll have to plug in the 2%, but, by the looks of things, I think my question has been pretty well answered for what I had. I had one other one that I'm not proposing. Anybody else have any questions with the budget? Okay, the next copy that you receive will be the final copy, unless when you get it, you review it, and you have issues
Final copy, the 2% raise.
with everything that we talked about tonight.
Rachel will have,
This is,
by the middle of next week, she'll have all the originals and everything ready, or the end of next week, about that. By the end of next week, you'll have, and you're gonna have nice folders and everything for us again.
With the general appropriations act included, all
You
of
got
that
it.
one package.
We've got to have the general appropriations act, we have to advertise a public hearing prior, or this,
2 weeks. Okay, on the agenda, we have room for public comment. Is there any public comment? Scott?
Bye.
Thank you for the raise.
Welcome.
we haven't passed the budget yet.
My kids, thank you. The third grade, thank you.
Anything else?
Need a motion to approve it?
Yeah, I hope that the winner of the Powerball
It's
lotto
me.
tonight is sitting in the room.
Right here.
Sitting in the
Wouldn't
room
it be
tonight.
wonderful?
I've
You
got
have to
mine.
buy a ticket, right?
Yes, I did.
I got my winner.
Do we have
I'll make a
a
motion
motion?
to adjourn.
I'll make a
Support.
motion.
Joe? Support.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Paul.
Oh, man.
Terry, coming? Terry, thank you for,
Thank you for having me.
any
Again,
problem,
thanks for the opportunity.
if you have any
Okay,
problems with
Jerry.
your boss, let me know.
All right, well.
Just keep that sense of humor going.
I got
Nice to meet you, Terry. Sure was. See you around here, but
Yeah.
Did you fill one out?
I don't want to.
I don't know where that
was.
You gave me
If
one
you
last.
don't wanna make any changes, you don't have to.
I'll be back in, I gotta go sort this out.
No more vendors. David.
So that's all you need.
He says, here, you go on.